Ancient Egypt and aliens. Ancient Egypt is certainly one of the most mysterious civilizations in history, but I will talk about it from a different, unfamiliar, and perhaps irrational point of view for many people. You will see in this episode light bulbs in ancient Egypt, airplanes and UFOs in the Temple of Abydos, unusual mummy, engraving of a strange creature on a coin, Akhenaten, Tully Papyrus. Our topic today is ancient Egypt and aliens. Bring a cup of tea or your favorite drink and let's get started. I have some proofs and indicators that we must think about, as ancient Egypt left behind clear evidence of the size of the huge infrastructure and the extraordinary advanced technology at that time, at least. Even some, myself included, believe that it is possible that ancient Egypt was a potential destination for life for extraterrestrial beings who contributed to building that strange civilization. There is very important evidence that aliens or extraterrestrial beings actually visited ancient Egypt and provided the ancient Egyptians with superior science and knowledge. Light bulbs in ancient Egypt. The ancient Egyptians left behind many inscriptions and hieroglyphic writings that have great historical and artistic value. Let's take a look at one of the most important of these inscriptions, which is an inscription that created a lot of astonishment and controversy among people, especially among those who believed that space creatures had a role in the lives of the ancient Egyptians. Here we find an old inscription that shows us how the ancient Egyptians used lamps and electricity. This is the Dendera lamp in the Temple of Hathor, and it depicts people carrying what appears to be a giant electric lamp. Certainly it is a very interesting thing, although some researchers believe that it is just symbols, refers to the gods or a flower that reveals a snake. Regardless of these poor interpretations, we must wonder if this hieroglyphic inscription really depicts a light bulb. How did the ancient Egyptians discover electricity? So just by themselves? Absolutely not. This wonderful depiction, in fact, refers beyond any doubt to the scientific and technological capabilities that were in ancient Egypt. Now we come to something very interesting and strange. If you think that the light bulb is the only Egyptian hieroglyphic inscription that is interesting and strange, then you are wrong. Look at these inscriptions that show us the size of that very advanced technology that was in ancient Egypt. It is in the Abydos temple, and it is one of the most amazing places that embodied on its walls the plane and helicopter, or what is known as the helicopter and flying saucer. Abydos was in the distant past one of the cities in ancient Egypt, and most scholars agree that it was the first capital of Egypt at the end of the pre-dynastic era. Families dating back more than 7,000 years ago. And it was a sacred city that the Greeks called Tenes, and as you can see in these drawings in the picture are different machines which are very similar to a helicopter and a flying saucer. And how did the ancient Egyptians have ideas about flying tools in that very distant era and mastered their engraving and depicting them clearly? Unusual mummy. This mysterious creature, which was discovered in a small pyramid near the tomb of the fourth pharaoh of the 12th dynasty, Sosir II. This mummy does not resemble any other mummy and does not resemble a human. It is 160 centimeters long and dates back to more than 2,000 years ago. Professor Victor Lubeck, a retired university doctor from the University of Pennsylvania, says about this mummy, it was found surrounded by unusual and unrecognizable things. And through it turns out that he had served as an advisor to one of the pharaohs and said that the Egyptian authorities were in a state of turmoil when discovering this mummy, and they wanted it was kept secret, and soon it was completely hidden from the media. Engraving of a strange creature on a coin. Of all the possible indications of the existence of extraterrestrial life in ancient Egypt, this one is actually the weakest. However, it is worth looking into to be proven completely false. The story goes that during the renovation of a house in Egypt, a coin was found, an old one with the shape of an unusual creature engraved on it. which is very similar to the stereotype that we are familiar with about aliens, or at least that is what it seems to us. And in fact, many people objected and questioned this coin and suggested that it was fabricated and had been manipulated by believers or obsessed with space creatures and that they are not real. Akhenaten. In fact, all we know is that Aten is the god of the sun, and Akhenaten ordered to build a complete city for the god Aten at a time when Akhenaten was depicted in ancient Egypt as if beings from heaven were visiting him. Although some researchers have indicated that Akhenaten himself was one of them, and he came to Earth to perform a special mission, in addition to his strange shape that does not resemble the rest of the pharaohs, as well as the shape of his long skull. Personally, I do not completely reject such a claim, but at this time I have some doubts until new evidence becomes clear to me about the mysterious pharaoh Akhenaten. Tully Papyrus. The Papyrus of Tully is one of the most important primary sources that are in the interest of our topic today. This papyrus is supposed to contain or talk about sightings of a number of UFOs during the time when Egypt was ruled by Thutmose III in his description of the personal events that he ordered to be written on the papyrus. He says that the tablets of fire came from the sky to Egypt and caused panic to all the Egyptians who saw them. In fact, this papyrus was found by the director of the Egyptology department in the Vatican, Alberto Tolli, and the papyrus was named after him. When he died, all his possessions, including the papyrus, were transferred to his brother, but he also died after a long time, and it was not possible to find the papyrus, and if it was found and studied impartially, it could change many things that we know about human history. But unfortunately, it has been completely lost, or at least this is what they are trying to convince us of. And despite many have questioned the validity of the Tully papyrus, but it is still a major indication of the visit of extraterrestrial beings to ancient Egypt. All of this evidence and indicators that we have mentioned constitute a strong argument that the pharaohs or the ancient Egyptian people used such beings to build and create all those amazing achievements that still attract more people every day to reflect on the greatness and secrets of ancient Egypt. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.